Headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Now, RT, which was called Russia Today, has been broadcasting here in the UK and around Europe. And the big question is, given the ongoing situation, should it be suspended? Well, today it was suspended with immediate effect by the UK-based global streaming news platform NewsPlayer Plus. And joining me now is Rich Jacobs. He's co-founder and chief executive of NewsPlayer Plus. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Evening, David.
A big decision for you.
You know, it wasn't a big decision. We actually got together as a team on Monday morning to discuss things, especially in light of both the EU and the UK government saying that, you know, we just can't continue having RT on. And, you know, it's actually quite an interesting thing because, as Boris himself said on Sunday, a big difference between, thankfully, here and in Russia, Putin makes the decisions clearly. And here, Boris can't just say, switch off this channel. So he's left it to Ofcom to make the decision. As I understand it, Ofcom are still looking at it. But as an independently owned and operated media business, which is bringing global news channels together, we made a decision ourselves on Monday. We just can't continue featuring RT.
Well, of course, RT really is a propaganda machine for the Kremlin.
Yeah.
And I thought actually things had got better with RT UK. The fact is, it did seem to have a little more of a, I suppose it was more balanced. But I think that's extremely good of you. And actually, it shows, doesn't it, how toothless Ofcom is?
Well, you know, they're doing their thing. I understand.
Well, not very much.
Well, fair point. Look. Over the weekend, there was actually a really interesting report in the Times along the lines of why it is they might be procrastinating, which is if this country, with Ofcom, our regulator, makes that decision to officially remove RT, then the response from Putin could be worse when he'll start censoring and stopping UK and European broadcast operations getting into Russia, which then only helps him create this continued misinformation that's going on. So, you know, it's a bit of balance. As it happens today, I understand that Freeview and other terrestrial traditional platforms have removed RT, not necessarily because of Ofcom, but because the signal's just not getting through because it comes from Luxembourg, which is in Europe, and of course the EU put a stop to RT over the weekend.
And my understanding is also the BBC is also saying that they want all their shows pulled, even those that haven't been broadcast from Russian state media. So clearly this is all ramping up. Obviously we believe in freedom of speech in this country, so there is an argument to say that actually we should be allowing RT to still broadcast.
You know, David, you're right. Obviously, this is the home of free speech. I'm on with you this evening. But, you know, there's a big difference between free speech as we know it in the UK, which gives platforms for presenters, listeners, politicians to air their political views. And it's the same in America, maybe a bit more in America than even here because of Ofcom. But, you know, when you're talking about disinformation, propaganda, as Boris said this morning, not just from a state now, but from a regime that has declared war and is now there in their next door neighbour's back garden. They've crossed the line, literally. They have crossed the line.
I mean, it was interesting to hear my earlier guest talking about the bombing of that television antenna to stop the signal, to ensure that the Russian propaganda machine carries on. And I thought it was really interesting, actually, when he said, well, we don't get our news from there anyway. We get it from the internet.
Yeah, that was really interesting. That seemed to me to be slightly tit for tat. But, you know, is he getting a little bit bruised that there's talk of banning RT? I mean, we're doing our small bit. It might be because...
No, and I think it's entirely admirable, and I think you have made the right decision. And I know it's a complex one, but equally at the same time, the Russian state cannot be allowed to spread its propaganda in the West.
No, absolutely. It's dangerous. I mean, just a couple of examples of late. I take your point earlier. You know, when we launched NewsPlayer Plus, absolutely, RT was on. We want to, you know, create a platform for global perspectives, diverse views. And we've got many news channels that are originating from parts of the world where they see the world through their lens. That's one thing. And you're right, RT, for a while, it was kind of interesting when they were talking about climate change, how they were handling COVID, interesting perspectives. Maybe wrong, maybe right, but that's for the viewers to decide. But, you know, of late, they crossed that line, and it's dangerous. And the two examples I'll give you, one, talking about how they're there to liberate Ukraine, but from what? I don't see anyone who's sort of crying out for help to be liberated. And number two, there was video footage early Monday morning, just before we made the decision to pull them, where they had video images of Ukraine soldiers, as their reporters said, in an environment with Russian soldiers eating the same food and drink and enjoying the same accommodation. That seemed really a bit like, is this disinformation? Is this the propaganda machine in full effect? And that's not a channel.
So as a channel, what prompted your decision? Was it the fact that the international sanctions had ramped up? Was it because you saw that was the reason, or was it because...
Definitely, yeah, absolutely, unequivocally. Economic sanctions, 1. 2, the EU. 3, the UK government saying, well, we would ban it, but we've got to go through Ofcom. And so we're not regulated. Streaming services from Netflix to NewsPlayer Plus, we're not regulated by Ofcom. So in many respects, we've got to make the decision ourselves. Let's not wait for Ofcom to make their ruling. And we decided, let's just do it.
And on a personal note, obviously there is this disinformation being waged by the Kremlin. What's your personal view on where Putin is now? Clearly he's frustrated. He's yelling at people in the middle ranks. I don't think he's making the progress he wanted. He certainly hasn't captured many major cities. I think that makes him very dangerous.
Makes him very dangerous. I've been listening this evening to your programme, David, and I think there's something not quite right, maybe mentally, health-wise with him. He's completely ostracised him from whatever team he ever had. There's various views that over the last 2 years, because of COVID, he has absolutely isolated himself. Word has it, with just 2 guys, a defence sort of minister in his cabinet and someone else. And it's quite possible that that's what he's been up to. Look, we all had our lockdown projects, but this one is just so dangerous.
Well, I don't think it was a lockdown project. He amassed some $630 billion, and I think this has been a long time in the planning. I don't know if I'm right, but I get the sense that he hasn't really recovered from the idea that Russia isn't the federal superstate it once was. He wants to recreate Mother Russia. He wants to take in Belarus, Ukraine, Crimea, as you can see. And the question is whether he'll move on to Moldova. And actually, in terms of broadcasting, I can't quite believe this. If you look at European events, for example, Eurovision, which features Moldova, Romania, Poland, those former or Eastern Bloc countries, and yet we're in a situation where you've got Russia invading them.
It's unbelievable. It really is in our backyard now. And if we even tried to, and I don't think we possibly can because of the point you made, that perhaps he's beyond that sort of rational mind that one could engage with. And that's probably why diplomacy's failed. But, he's invaded a European country, and there is that line he's crossed, and that's why we're in such a really bad place.
I would agree with that. And in terms of just your sense, in terms of the information that the normal Russian citizen is getting, how biased do you think the news is that they're getting? Because clearly, listening to a lot of Russian citizens, they believe that the Ukrainians are in the wrong, that Russia is just protecting its interests. It's not an invasion.
Well, we're talking about television, and what I understand is certainly the older generation out there, television's so important for them. I mean, it's important for us as is radio, but not to the same scale. And so that older generation really hangs on to every word they hear from Putin, and it's frighteningly possible that they believe everything he's saying about the Ukraine. So they're not opposing him. I think the ones that are the younger generations who've got access to social media. And look, there's always a place for social media. And domestically, we might sort of have concerns over here, but thankfully out there, it is getting through. And I think that might be influencing hearts and minds of the younger generation. But will it be enough to stop Putin in his tracks?
Well, that is a very good point indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Rich. It's been a great pleasure to you, and congratulations on your decision to ban RT from your platform. So many congratulations to you.
Good talk. Hot talk.
Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.